let's go look at this Spider-Man trailer and then we will begin the deep dive. I wonder if this will get copyright strike. Do you think anyone cares about the copyright of this movie? I don't think anyone really minds, right? It's probably got like 10 views? What are we at right now? 12.3 million views in one day? Yeah, that's nothing. Trailers weren't. I tell you what, the fucking trailer for Ed gave me a copyright strike. Ed, the 1996 movie with Matt LeBlanc teaching a fucking monkey how to play baseball. And then I disputed it, and then they said, no, this is ours. We don't care if it's React content. Okay. He's sad. That's what we want. Spider-Man Punisher is one of my favorites. Don't like Punisher. Spider-Man and Punisher, though. Average Peter Parker day. Oh, and he's caught. By what? Is it his own gloop? Wait, okay. Have we got any, like, fun bits to do with the numbers? Is this TOS? Okay, so I've had a normal time, as you can see. When you get into the weeds of Spider-Man lore, you do find some very strange things. Especially when you get into the 2000s and they kind of hit this weird era where they kind of like tried a bunch of stuff in the 90s and then it didn't work, and then they were like, fuck it, this kind of reset. The new stuff didn't really work, and then they tried to reset again. Then the movies came out and they were really big and they're like, oh shit, we should be like the movies? So then they start doing even weirder stuff. This one kind of got away from me, I'm not gonna lie. This is like slide 1 of like 1000, by the way. Yeah, this is very much like looks like a movie that's tying up a bunch of loose ends of things that we were promised but didn't get in the previous movies, because they were like, hey, look, it's a new Spider-Man. He's just a regular guy. He's just hanging out in New York. He's young and he's going to do the things from the comics. And then the second movie, they were like, this could do a European vacation and team up with secret agents. And I thought it was a bit of a weird pivot. And then the third one, he needs to meet his friends from other universes and also meet all his bad guys from other universes. Everyone is here. The Smash Bros. Ultimate of Spider-Man movies. The funny thing about that movie, I did enjoy it, but the stuff I really liked Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in the lab chatting. I was like, that's great, you know? I love Willem Dafoe doing Goblin because he's fucking good and he is a Goblin man. I'm not particularly interested in watching 3 Spider-Man who mostly look the same fighting a bunch of villains at the same time. It was just very dark, like visually dark. And it then became this weird thing where they're like, the first trilogy is about setting up the thing that we promised to happen in the first movie, you know? You got Uncle Ben, which as we know is a verb. You got Uncle Ben at the end of the movie. Yeah, there you go. He's got an Uncle Ben equivalent, guys. Are you happy now? And it's like, we're on the third movie. And this third movie, this isn't Spider-Man 3. This is Spider-Man 3 2. So we're going through this trailer, right? We're going into the comics. We're going to go deep and crazy with this. I am the Charlie Kelly. I'm chain smoking in a mailroom. There are strings all around me and comic books and jars of things we do not mention. Slash through for a movie trailer. This baby can hold so many release date pushes. Yeah, there's been so many delays in recent years. Like fucking, I was laughing every time Craven got delayed. It got delayed like 4 times. And I made this joke on our podcast that like the year of Luigi, it was going to be the year of Craven. Because obviously it's not going to be the year of Craven. And then it got delayed a year. And I was like, nope, still the year of Craven. And then it was like 3 years in a row of it being the year of Craven. Did anyone even see that film? Yes, I saw it. I saw Craven on the app Crave. I think I was the only one. But even then, that was to do a podcast about it. It was for content purposes. And as you know from the AI overview, I am a content creator. I actually didn't know Man-Spider was from comics. I thought he was the animated series invention. You are actually correct. So Man-Spider is sort of in the comics, but the actual Man-Spider storyline that people are familiar with, if they are familiar with it, is just in the cartoon. There's no direct equivalent in the comics, which is why this movie will be interesting if it does do it. Because he's going through some kind of transformations, but there's a few different storylines they could be drawing from. Morbius shows up mid-movie demanding plasma. I'll lose my mind. I mean, Morbius is heavily involved in the Man-Spider arc in the animated series, which is the only thing about it that makes it not good. But so is Punisher. And Craven, actually. Craven is in that, actually, now I think about it. And also the World Trade Center turns up. There's a whole thing that goes down, and then they cut all the references to World Trade Center from that episode after the fact. The show came in like 94, so they changed it post 2001 because it was referencing a building. Keep confusing TAS Punisher and Blade. They're introduced within like 2 episodes of each other, and they're both just angry men who drive around trying to kill people. But the difference is Blade has garlic bombs and the Punisher just has giant rockets that he shoots everywhere. But anyway, I should go through because I got a bunch of shit. Okay, so first off, we got this new suit, right? It's kind of a combination of the previous ones. It kind of looks the most like the Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit. No web pits. No web pits. All our whimsy is gone. We had our whimsy in Far From Home, but we can't have that anymore, and he's too poor to uphold those web pits. We really do have a PowerPoint. Believe me, we do. My favorite suit to use in the games. You know what? I'm looking forward to playing Spider-Man 2, the game. Spider-Man 2... 4? Is it the 4th Spider-Man 2? No, there was one. Spider-Man 2 in the Game Boy. Spider-Man 2, the movie, the game. Oh, okay. There's a lot of Spider-Man 2s when you bring in the video games. Jesus. We've got a Spider-Man PS4 Insomniac Spider-Man influence on this game, clearly. Everyone likes this Spider-Man. This is what everyone understands. He does do the L3 to dive. He does parkour over a series of objects midway through a skyscraper construction. And also he's horribly depressed, which is what we all want from a Peter Parkour. Of course, in this movie, after the events of the last movie, he has given the world amnesia because that was a storyline that they had to adapt from the comics. The one that everyone hated, where everyone found out who he was, and then he used magic to make everyone forget who he was. In the comics, it was like science magic. It was like a combo Reed Richards, Tony Stark, Doctor Strange spell update to the universe. This is just him, right? He is literally the meme. He is the meme where he's saying they don't know bomb text. But yes, no one there knows that he gave them amnesia and he's actually a super duper man who has been across the galaxy. And also, never forget, initiated kill mode on his Iron Man suit against a bunch of aliens, because that's something you want from Spider-Man. In a war zone, murdering people with his arms. But moving on. This is when we get really granular, right? He's got a washing machine. This is a reference to the comics where he also used washing machines. He is alone and depressed. This is a reference to him being alone and depressed in the comics. This is, in all likelihood, some kind of piss bucket. It is a real state. This is truly the prop department got told, can you get us something poor? Can you get us something that makes his life look worse? And put it on a shelf. And they did. The funny thing is with all of this, though, it's like they're going hard on like how depressing and sad his life is, and it just looks like any of my friends' apartments in London. I'm like, you know what? That chair's a good find. Like, we used to record a podcast on a table that Henry had that like kind of could swivel, and we could put our mic on it and put it between us. When we started the podcast, we were doing it in Henry's room in a flat that he was sharing with 5 or 6 other people. Like, I think he was on a chair and I was sat on his bed, and then we swiveled this chair between us to put the mic on. I was like, where'd you get this table from? It's a really nice table. And he was like, oh, I found it on the street outside. So yeah, we recorded the podcast in this place. But anyway, Henry's got a house now, so no one feel bad for him having street furniture. He's just reading the script from the trailer here. It's not a big deal. Then we got like, there's something going on here. I keep wanting to call him Ganky because he is Ganky basically, but Ned Leeds, he's got some kind of swagger on. I can't tell if he's pulling this off or not. I think maybe it's the leather jacket and the shirt are just too much at once, but I feel like either one of those things could totally work. But also in another way, he is dressing kind of like my dad dresses, down to the glasses too. So anyway, Ned is now my dad. Can't believe you didn't put his title in there. I've actually completely forgotten. The CEO of sex. You know, I was gonna say he's like the CEO of porn. That was almost right. I'm thinking of the porn thing because there's a joke in Homecoming where he pretends he was looking at porn, which they've done it. They did that with Yankee in the comics too. I don't know what it is about his character and just Guna radiation. Earlier on, Laz said, please don't say he shoots his own gloop again. And I'm gonna be saying a lot worse than that, believe me. I love not knowing as much as they do about Spider-Man because I rarely say this to myself when you bring up a lot of the deep lore. Oh boy, there are some of the people who are the most vigilant about correcting people about Spider-Man Online, who are so emotional and angry about modern Spider-Man comics. And guess what? They have not read a single Spider-Man comic. I have seen it. I have seen it happen. Many such cases, many such cases. Very concerning. Their knowledge comes from screenshots that they saw on Twitter. So even those people don't know the real shit. And we got some weird shit today. Some real deranged shit. I was like looking at this for a while before I realized, what is he eating here? He's eating flowers. He's got his flowers on the table, drinking coffee. He is taking the petals from the bouquet, putting it on his plate, and then eating them. This may be something to do with a transformation. It may also just be a new New York poor chic diet of some kind, plant-based diet. Going with these flowers, right? Here we see him looking longingly. The ultimate, like, they don't know I'm Spider-Man shot, right? And he's looking over here. You may be thinking he's looking at Zendaya because she's so pretty. No, he's looking at the flowers. He's looking at the flowers because, as we previously discussed, he now eats flowers. It's his secret shame. And you might be thinking, okay, that's a bit of a reach. But let's remember, then Far From Home, there's a point where he gets hit by a train or something. I can't remember. He gets hit by a train and then he ends up like in another country. And it's like, where does he end up? He ends up in the Netherlands. He ends up in Holland, what we previously knew as Holland. What does the Netherlands have a lot of? Flowers. It's all there for the discerning viewer to see. Off screen, he developed some kind of taste for flowers, or maybe just learned something about their nutritional benefits. And then he was picked up in his private jet because he's a relatable superhero. But don't worry, we wished the private jet away with magic. But now he's still going back. He knows he's got one flower now. He's just got one flower. Just eating this flower sadly by himself in a cafe, thinking, man, I wish I could just head up happy, get on that jet, and fucking fly to the Netherlands and munch on a field. But instead, he just has to longingly look at it. I think he stole these flowers, actually. This is not the order, right? He sees these flowers at this party. You don't see right after this scene, I think what's going to happen is he runs over there, he slides over the table, he pushes Zendaya down, he grabs the flowers, and then he runs out and he goes to a cafe where he then starts eating the flowers. That's how poor he is in this movie. I popped away for a minute. What is Jack talking about? I'm talking about my predictions and insight into this new Spider-Man trailer. As you can clearly see, I don't know why you even need to ask. Didn't people say he looked like he had a frog in his mouth? Yes, and I will never forget that. It really does look like that. And someone told him that in an interview, and he had to like have a normal reaction to that. That's Tom Holland on the left, by the way, in case anyone's confused. In fact, what's his favorite flower? But in all honesty, it's probably lilies. Are lilies the funeral flower? That's his favorite one because, I mean, he has laid down a lot of flowers at a lot of funerals. Like, everyone he knows dies at some point. Peter is now in ESU. He is in Empire State University, a university that does not exist in real life, despite what I thought for a long time. And then this is Daddy Ruffalo. He's not like Smart Hulk anymore, I guess, which is good. I was sick of that shit. But I mean, there's no chance he's gonna be in this movie and not Hulk out. There's a mind control villain in this, so he's probably gonna get turned, and Spider-Man might have to hop around him. They should also relive this, one of my favorite moments from Avengers comics, where they're all just bored, and then someone says, "Can you really stick to anything?" And then it cuts to the next scene, and the Hulk is like flexing his bicep, and Spider-Man's just like hanging upside down from his arm, and they're like, "Yeah, he sticks to the Hulk too." It's not a Smart Hulk because that costs more to animate. Yeah, that is true. It also looks less good than Mark Ruffalo. Quark. Is this a hidden meaning here? Lattice. Lattice sounds like lettuce. Lettuce is green. Quark wears green. The Hulk is green. Quark, pointing to him. Yes, it's a science term, but it's also the name of a popular Ratchet and Clank character. Could this be the introduction of a multiversal crossover with Ratchet and Clank? I'm saying yes. Because my thought in this is that there's going to be a second trailer that ends with the big stinger is that, oh, he's got 6 arms now. That will be the, whoa. And then you go in and then there's more to be revealed. Interestingly, they cut from this to this. Him being scanned after talking to Bruce, and then you got to scan here. This is not the same position. We don't even know if this is the Bruce Banner thing. But here's the thing, when you zoom in, you see in this, right, it says Agent Ramirez. Who is Agent Ramirez? I got a few ideas because I was looking up who are some characters with the name Ramirez that might be the person filing the report on, well, I mean, we're presuming Spider-Man because of all this Spider-Man stuff going on. And that's kind of a Spider-Man pose, but we don't know. This could be Tarantula. This could be our boy Miles Morales. This could be Kane Parker. This could be Ben Reilly. This could be Spider-Side. This could be Silk. This could be Spider-Gwen. This could be Spider-Man Noir. This could be the one that's a T-Rex. Here are some options. We got Seuss from Gravity Falls. We got Cruz from Cars 3. And we have, of course, Ramirez from Highlander. I do think that the Sean Connery one is the least likely because he is dead. Now, here's where we get into it, right? Okay, he's cocooning. He is leveling up effectively. He is hibernating, and then he'll come out. There's various versions of this in the comics, but usually he comes out, he's got extra stuff. Doesn't look like he has extra arms at this point. They could edit them out, but I don't think he would. I think he'd be concerned with the arms, really. There's a point in this trailer where he falls, right? And he's like, oh no, I ain't got my web shooters on. He looks up and then his hand goes up. They insert, like, there's like a web sound. And my assumption when I first watched it is like, oh, then he has the organic webbing. Like he gets the organic webbing in this movie or something, which I think is dumb. He never had organic webbing, but he did in the movie just to simplify things in the origin. In the comics, they did a whole weird thing that happened that I'll get into later in order to make him have organic webbing to match the movie. But then when they did the reboot with Andrew Garfield, they just gave him the web shooters again because that's kind of more. It's better. It's better. I mean, I'm not even going to argue about it. The real web shooters are better. So the idea of then doing a movie where it's like, now we're going back, adapting the comic that was made to imitate a movie. But anyway, but it could be a misnomer because we don't see what happens here. It's a trailer. They can just insert a web sound. They do lie in these trailers. Remember when the Hulk was running into the camera, the end of the Infinity War trailer, and then he never did that? He was in a Hulkbuster armor the whole time. It could be a misnomer and he's being caught. He could be caught by, let's say, Daredevil catches him and says, hello, naked man, I'm Red Man. I don't like the clunky web shooters in this though, and I think he's going to ditch them. I love them actually. I love the big clunky web shooters. I don't think they're necessary, but I love the completely round the wrist external web shooters. I think they're cool. At least Daredevil is blind and can't see him naked. Yeah, but he can probably sense the heat of his naked body or something. Smell his pheromones. This is where we get into an actual comic thing. There was this whole weird thing that I still feel conflicted about because some of the stories were good, some of them weren't. But it's a stupid idea. Spider-Man wasn't just a science creation. He is actually a mystical spider totem. And because of that, there are people who want to suck his life energy because they're like, yum, yum totems. But then there's this question of, are you the spider or are you the man? Basically, he finds out he's dying. Effectively, he dies. There's this thing called the Other, who's this big spider guy. And he's like kind of like this mystical deity. And it's like, he's the spider and he's the man. There's the man and then there's the other. It's kind of confusing. He ends up cocooning up. What happens is there's this big boy called Morlan. If you look at these eyes on his hands, which don't really come back, like he kind of got these like Morbius in the cartoon vibes. But anyway, he's an energy vampire. He just wants to eat Peter Parker so bad because he tastes delicious. He beats him to near death and he goes to hospital. And then when he's in hospital, he comes back to try and like, you know, absorb all that Spider-Man stuff. Spider-Man wakes up, goes nutso, throws these spikes from his wrists, stabs him, turns this dude to dust. You know, he fucking murders the shit out of him. But he doesn't even remember doing this afterwards. And then he dies. He like immediately dies after doing this. Spider-Man, that is. Then his body sheds, like his corpse, he's dead for like a day, and then suddenly, much like Jesus, he sheds his skin, and they just find the shell of this Peter Parker corpse. And then he goes and makes a cocoon for himself that you see on the left here, under a bridge. And then when he emerges from it, he just like goes home, presumably naked. He runs all the way home naked. And then he's like, hello, I'm alive again. But now he then has some new abilities, basically. The funny thing is, this is then retconned like 2 years later and he doesn't have them anymore. Yeah, part of this, his eyes do start turning red, and his eyes do turn red in the trailer. He also, this is technically another storyline from a similar time, but it's around this time he gets the organic webbing, and he's like, ew, gross, because organic webbing is disgusting. I do not want Peter Parker to have weird urethras on his wrist. I mean, call me crazy, but I think that's weird. And he also like gets better spider sense and hearing, and I think he can talk to bugs. But yeah, as you can see, he's like living alone, so he can like splooge all over the walls as much as he wants. Although he looks pretty distraught about it. Then, of course, in this trailer, we've also got this kind of mind-hopping thing. You've got a tank driven by some old lady. She like turns into this smirking like riot officer or whatever. There's a couple of people this could be. I really thought for a while that Mr. Negative was going to be in this movie because he was in both the Spider-Man games that were popular, and also Mr. Negative was introduced in the arc that was called Brand New Day. But Brand New Day is just kind of like, it was basically like, hey guys, if you haven't read a Spider-Man comic before, you can read this and forget about the lore. Okay, the bullshit I just said. We're just kind of resetting everything pretty much. And there's not any particular story that they draw from. I think they're just picking the name. But if they were to, it's around that time that Mr. Negative is introduced. And he has the ability to corrupt people. But the way this trailer shows it, it's like a mind is hopping between person to person. I've seen people say they think it's going to be Jean Grey because Sadie Sink is in this movie as a mysterious character, and she kind of looks like she'd be a good Jean Grey, I guess. That's the running theory, and I don't even know at this point. If he was a real Spider-Man, he'd have a web coming out of his butt, not his limbs. Yeah, this is true. They should really just go all the way. Oh yeah, and then there's this person. This person is presumably the kind of villain because, like, you know, a hero doesn't stand like that, do they? Some kind of like, I'm gonna upset the system, and that's a bad thing. We also have this lady, the Queen, later renamed Spider Queen because it was confusing. She was introduced in this disassembled arc, and she is the most ridiculous, overpowered character. I think she's immortal because she dated Captain America in World War II. She has the power over anyone with an insect gene, which includes Spider-Man, even though he is not an insect man. He's an arachnid man. She controls him and people with that gene, so she can just mind control people and make him do whatever they want. She's also can move stuff with her mind and can take big hits and has super strength. She just has a cajillion things. The idea of this is that she will transform Spider-Man, which is when this story leads to, because you can see, I did love this when I was a kid, like, there's a series of covers where he transforms a little bit in each panel. Because he's like a absolute beta, he just turns into a spider because she tells him to. I mean, it does happen over a couple of issues, but still, it's like horribly gross. They go so hard on it being gross in these issues. This is when you get weird in comics, because this character is not very nice. But Spider-Man calls her a skank like 18 times. That's his go-to insult for her, and it was kind of weird. And then there's also a thing how she's the ex-girlfriend of Captain America. Oh god, Insector Gadget. Why do I like that? Yeah, I do like that. I'm sorry. But here's the thing, right? One of the artists that worked on this series is called Humberto Ramos, and he, according to an unverified thing I saw on the wiki, her real name is apparently based off his ex-girlfriend. So this guy was drawing this character who's this horrible person, and then the writers calling them a skank, and then they're like, oh, we should name it after your ex-girlfriend. I'm like, this is weird. Because that's the other thing, right? You know how she transforms? I didn't get the panel here. She kisses him. She like kisses him because it's specifically is her saliva can mutate people who have the insect gene. So she like ties him up and then kisses him, and then it turns him into a spider. And don't you think that's like maybe how guys feel after the girl breaks up with them? Man, I was happy, and then she came into my life, turned me into a giant spider, and then left. But this is not the weird part of the story. This is not the weird part of the story, and I'm very sorry for this. This leads to a moment in comics which I think everyone tries to forget. And I do not think that this next part will happen. We do get the storyline in which Spider-Man gets turned into a giant spider. He is then impregnated I mean, I say impregnated, he's just suddenly pregnant. The spider is pregnant, but then the spider dies, and she's so sad about it. She's like, no, you were my guy. You're my number one spider. You followed her around like a dog, had like basically no brain, but then he just dies, and it's like, oh, Spider-Man's dead. But then, Spider-Man climbs out of this spider corpse naked, and it turns out he was pregnant with himself. So, yes, Spider-Man got turned into a giant spider, he died, and then he gave birth to himself. He is his own dad. Don't worry, it was retconned. I'm certain this will be in the movie. First 5 minutes. That's my prediction. Hard cut. Imagine losing 2 dads. 3 dads, really. 2 dads and a father figure? And then, of course, there's ninjas in this trailer. The question is, why ninjas? And the answer, of course, is because ninjas are cool. Some people have said that maybe Daredevil is in this shot, but they just like CG'd him out. Chose not to CG him in, because I don't think they probably did this in real life. May Parker is dead. But is she dead? Because she does die in the comics. But then it turns out she didn't die. It wasn't actually her who died, even though she literally died in Peter Parker's arms in a very good issue that was very emotional. But it turned out, no, she wasn't dead. It was actually an actress who Norman Osborn paid to get plastic surgery to look like this old lady, to pretend to be May Parker so that she could die for real. And then meanwhile, Aunt May is just like on a breathalyzer somewhere. No one stays dead apart except Uncle Ben, Gwen Stacy, and someone else I forget. Batman's parents, I think. Well, you know what? That phrase used to include Bucky. At least when we're talking Marvel, it used to be Uncle Ben, Gwen Stacy, and Bucky Barnes. But then they brought Bucky Barnes back, and then it turned out it was really good. And technically, Gwen is back. And Uncle Ben has come back, but it's been a multiversal Uncle Ben. There's an Uncle Ben who's Spider-Man, and there's an Uncle Ben who is just a piece of shit who came from another timeline. And then he just becomes like a hobo. Gwen Stacy is back. I mean, as in she's like Spider-Gwen, as in there's another version of Gwen Stacy. Gwen Stacy herself has not come back, but she has been cloned multiple times. Okay, and this is where we get into the man spider-ness, because is he going to turn into a big spider? Who knows? Here's the timeline. In 1971, in Marvel Fanfare, goes to the Savage Land. He basically goes to this dinosaur island, and then he... Oh, that's not 1971. Oh, I skipped ahead. That's 1982. 1971, he tries to get rid of his own... Yeah, you have to say it while crying. 1971, he grows 6 arms by accident. Then he gets rid of them. 82, he turns into a giant spider briefly. In 93, there's a teenager who makes a wish to this guy called the Darkhold Dwarf, who then like gives him a monkey paw wish, turns into this thing called Spider X. And then I think at the end of the issue, he explodes or something. But then in 95, you get Man Spider in the animated series. So while there's some spider stuff that's happened, the first 95 in that cartoon, which I have a podcast about if anyone has not heard me talk about it, is actually completely new to that. Sorry, I just had this weird out-of-body experience where I realized what I was doing. You know? It's a very strange thing to happen. In 95, this happens, and then they also combine it with the Punisher is there. The 6-arm thing is the first stage of turning into the spider, which makes more sense. And that's the storyline people know, but doesn't actually ever happen in the comics, really. That would be the storyline to draw from for this movie if they were to do it. In 1999, Plant Man turns him into a big spider again. But then he turns Plant Man into a plant and then says, what you gonna do? He goes, fine, here's the antidote. Then we got the stories I just talked about where he, weirdly enough, within a 2-year period, he turns into a spider, gets pregnant, dies, gives birth to himself. Then he's got better spider sense and organic webbing. Dies again, comes back, cocoons, comes out of the cocoon, and now he has spikes out of his wrists and all his powers are like amped up again. 2 years later, it's all retconned anyway. And then in 2011, there's this event called Spider Island, which I'm, of course, not a fan of, in which the Queen comes back and teams up with the fucking Jackal. They turn everyone in New York into spider people. First, they got Spider-Man powers, but then they turn into giant spiders. And then she turns into a giant spider, and then no one is a spider anymore, but now everyone is naked, and then the story just sort of ends. But also, we got Punisher here. Punisher is in the Man Spider story, as you can see on the left. He is also in the first Jackal storyline in Amazing Spider-Man 129. That's Punisher's first issue was trying to kill Spider-Man. I like Punisher as this. I think he is better as a villain who has some kind of moral code, but not an anti-hero. Maybe I just don't like anti-heroes as much. I don't know. They could be drawing from some of that in this movie. There's also other references in the trailer where there's actual covers they kind of copy. But I don't know what there's to say about that other than that. He's got his battle van. We love the battle van. Hopefully he has a gun this cartoonishly big as he does in the cartoon. Him with the coming up with the bombs. That's kind of the vibe I like for Punisher. In the 70s, Spider-Man's just doing his thing, and then the Punisher turns up and he's like, oh, this fucking guy. Please stop trying to kill everyone. And then usually Punisher kills like one guy, and Peter Parker's like, that sucks, man. Do you think one day Spider-Man will end, or like Batman stuff, like one day they'll have a final issue? I think they'll pretend to have a final issue, get a bunch of press, and then come back a year later. I think that's likely to happen. I think there was a chance in the past that happened, but now with Disney owning him and the movies and everything, and the cartoons and the merch, I think Spider-Man is a Disney princess now. Had they done that before? No, but they kind of, it's a common thing that they end a volume and then they reset things, you know, or something really bad happens that everyone hates and then they talk about it online, they get rage baited. That's why anyone talking about Spider-Man comic online is usually mad. It gets them a bunch of attention and then it turns out, oh no, we reset it again. It's not a great state of affairs right now, I've got to say. We also got Scorpion. He was in Homecoming and fucking years later, he's turned up and he's actually wearing the Scorpion suit. And by actually wearing the Scorpion suit, I mean he put the tail on. You gotta wear the whole fucking green, tight ass suit, man. You gotta have the fucking balaclava on with the somehow like vacuum packed around your nose and lips. It's gotta be armor, but also really thin. It's gotta be is some impossible material. My kind of thought on this is, why do a guy called the Scorpion who looks like this if you're not gonna do a guy who looks like this? You know, because when you see a guy like this, like, look at this, he's wearing like fucking like beige cargo pants, and then he's got like a harness on around his body with a big scorpion tail. When I see this guy, I'm like, oh, this guy he's a scorpion. Yeah, I get it. When I see this, I'm like, why has this guy got a big fucking tail? Like, why? Isn't there a better way to use this? Couldn't he have put it on his arm? Or at least on his front? Well, maybe not like directly switch it all the way around because that will look weird. He's got a big tail that he can't like look at. He has to whip with his butt. That seems like it raises more questions when you try and make it look realistic. Also, this lady here kind of looks a little bit like Rogue, so everyone's talking about how it's Rogue. I think that would be the craziest way to introduce a character, so I don't think it is. You can tell we're getting to the end because my mind is now gone. There is also, if we're talking spider people from this era, got Ezekiel. Ezekiel actually turned up in Madam Web. Less said about that, the better. There's also this lady, she's called Arrow. She's made of spiders. And then she ends up just sort of hanging around for a while until she's eaten by birds. And I am not joking. She is eaten by birds. And then this guy's called the Gatekeeper. I can't even remember his deal. I think he just came and just said vague stuff about the future being bad. And he's also made of spiders. Did you watch Madam Web and is it as bad as everyone says? Yes, but I loved it. I thoroughly enjoyed Madam Web. If you like campy bad movies, it's very funny. I laughed really hard, but I was inebriated in a way that is legal in the province of British Columbia. So I may be biased. We also got my girl Shafra in the middle here. I love Shafra. They brought her back recently in a Spider-Verse comic that I hated, so I'm gonna pretend that doesn't exist. But in this original story, she's great. She's just a really creepy lady who is like a spider wasp. And if you want to have nightmares, look up what a spider wasp is. They're fucked up. But she's just this creepy interdimensional bug thing that tries to kill him and also kind of tries to like bait him into fighting her. And one of the ways she baits him is by turning into a regular lady here called Sharon, going on the news and saying like, yeah, I used to date Spider-Man, and just makes up a bunch of shit about him. One of her plans is to get Spider-Man cancelled, which I always find very amusing. I think we're coming to the end now, are we not? Yes, that's the end. That's the end. If realistic spiders show up in a movie, I might have to close my eyes. Bugs scare me. Yeah, it's kind of a hard thing with a family-friendly character who is loved by children. That there's a lot of bug stuff, and bugs are weird and gross. There was a spider wasp inside my house last year. That is awful. I do not want to hear any more about it. Where's MCU Vulture anyways? MCU Vulture, as far as we know, is stuck in the Morbiverse. He's stuck in that Morbius post-credit scene. Man, what a fucking clusterfuck. This is bringing back a lot of terrible memories.